Hello everybody, this is Bill McFadden from TonePure.com, and in this video we're going to take a look at 7 violins, some quite recent solo violins, and we're going to take a look at the E-instruments that just came out, Stradivarius solo violin, the Orchestral Tools first chairs, which came out a while back, the Orchestral Tools Tableau solo violin, which came out very recently, and also the Vienna Synchronized solo strings, the violin in that, and the Vienna Instruments solo string from a little while ago, and quite a while ago, and then the Joshua Bell solo violin, which is, I guess, about a year or so, and the Spitfire solo violin in probably the same time frame as the Joshua Bell solo violin. So in this video, we're going to take a look at a cue that they're all going to play. And this is the cue right here. It goes through the different register values for a violin from high and down to quite low. So it gives you a good idea what the violin sounds like through its range. And we're going to talk about the playability of the samples. In other words, which libraries are more playable. And what do I mean by playable? Well, how does it respond to fast passages? They all do fairly well at slow passages, but there are marked differences when you get a faster arpeggio going on. And the articulation we're going to look at is primarily the sustain and or legato articulation. And the MIDI of this cue, as well as the PDF, will be available as a free download in the description below the video. So if you want the free downloads for the MIDI, you could try the harmony and melody MIDI file on your own violins and see how it matches up to the ones we have here. So let's go ahead and get started, and we'll start with the Stradivarius that just came out. The interface looks like this. We're doing the Virtuoso preset in this, and let's go ahead and see how that sounds. So altogether, it does very well, it sounds to me. And if I just play and see how it responds. So it does have a quick response and it keeps up with fast arpeggios. And it actually sounds good in the high register. So let's take a look at the next violin. This would be the Orchestral Tools. And here you see the interface. We're doing the sustain articulation. So let's see what that sounds like with the cue. As far as playability, not quite as responsive as the Stradivarius. Let's take a look at the Orchestral Tools Tableau, which actually just came out about a month ago or so. So here's what the interface looks like, and we're doing the sustain attack, CCU1 plus legato, and here's what it sort of sounds like. So I'm not really thrilled with the legato, and we're not looking at the other articulations, which for most of the violins, the other articulations are just fine. The one that seems to be the one which is the playability one as far as doing legato and being versatile for playing or inspiring a violin cue. The sustain and or legato patch is the one, so it falls short. Like if I do an arpeggio, just doesn't sound natural at all. This sine player is a fairly recent engine, so maybe they will work on it, hopefully in the next edition of the Tableau, the next update, and overcome some of that. So let's hear what it sounds like in the cue. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. We have the Vienna Synchronized solo strings. So Vienna Symphonic Library ported a lot of their original stuff that was in the Vienna Instruments Pro interface, and they ported it into the Synchron interface. And so if we look at the interface, it looks like so. And we have the sustain expressive patch up. As far as playability, the Vienna Symphonic Library always has great playability with the Vienna Instruments Pro interface, and with the new Synchron player, it has the same quick response to arpeggios and fast passages, mordents like. And let's go ahead and hear what it sounds like in the cue. Now, each of these libraries has a whole lot to offer. We're just looking at the sustain and or legato patch in these libraries. And so it's just a quick overview of the playability, what I call the playability. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next violin. Here we have the Vienna Instruments solo violin. So this was before it went into the Synchron player. So it actually is in the Vienna Instruments Pro player, which still has a lot of value because you have a very dry sample. It does have include a reverb right here, but you can take that off and then use any reverb you want. So that's the nice thing about the Vienna Instruments Pro libraries, is they do have that feature, so you can use the reverb of your choice without having additional reverbs going on at the same time. Now, as far as playability, not a problem at all. One of the reasons is it switches back between these two different presets based on the velocity. So it has excellent playability in that regard. And here's what it sounds like with our cue. Now, taking a look at the interface, again, we see that in the Perform tab, we also have an option of velocity crossfade, which gives you a little bit more volume if you want. Because actually, when we were playing the cue, it sounded like it could have used a little bit more volume. So let's go ahead and hear what it sounds like with a little velocity crossfade into the louder articulations. So moving along into the next violin, we have the Joshua Bell. And the interface looks like so. We have the sustain articulation. Doesn't quite do as well with the arpeggios. Does okay with the mordents though. And we're using the natural character. With a lot of these, you have to sort of get used to the particular character of the library when you're playing it, learn how much velocity to use, and so on. So it just is you have to learn the feel of the library. So let's hear what this one sounds like. And then the next one we'll take a look at is the Spitfire solo violin. So this is the interface. We're doing the sustain articulation. So it does good with the mordents, it does good with the arpeggios. So I'd say overall it's quite good, very good. Like the tone. So let's hear what it sounds like with the cue. So I think it handled that cue very well, as did many of the other ones, some not so well. So let's go ahead and take a real quick comparison. What I'll do is just play starting with the first one, the Stradivarius. Play the same phrase. I hope Orchestral Tools does something with their sustain patch. Actually, I really like the tone in that one. Let's compare the tone here. And here's the Vienna instruments with the Vienna Ensemble Pro interface. Here's your Joshua. I like the tone there too. Good tone there as well. Orchestral Tools certainly takes last place here. And their first chairs isn't too far behind. Well, actually, it's further ahead than their Tableau, but. I really like the Stradivarius as well. So I'd say the winners would be the Spitfire solo, the Joshua Bell, the Vienna Instruments violin, as well as the Vienna Synchronized, and the E-instruments. I'd say all of those are good choices. And last place, Orchestral Tools. So hopefully they work on their violin solo strings and their other ones as well, but this is just violins we're looking at. The other ones could be better, but somehow I think the technology needs to be tweaked. So, Bill McFadden, and don't forget in the description below, there's a link to the free downloads of the PDF of the harmony and melody we're using to test the different and compare the different violins, and also the MIDI file with the melody and the harmony, just like you see here, will also be available for download free of charge. So Bill McFadden signing off from Tone Pure Music.